Hello and welcome back to the I'm Moving to Italy podcast. This is Nathan Heinrich and I would like to welcome you back to Season 4, Episode 11. Have you ever had an experience of meeting someone and after you've met that person, you see the world in a very different way? Somehow, in some way, they impact you or shed light onto something or just leave a lasting impression on you. So much so that you are changed. Something inside you shifts. You never really see the world the same way again, or at least maybe a single topic the same way again. Well, as surprising as it may sound, that is exactly the experience I had while interviewing today's guest. And no, this was not a guru who lived the life of a monk in a monastery who shares pearls of wisdom with everyone he meets. Although he does share wisdom, he's not a monk, he's not a self-help expert, he's not written thousands of books on how to live your best life. No, this gentleman that I will be interviewing in today's episode is an Italian business and tax expert. Now, before you say, come on, Nathan, it's not possible to have someone who is a tax expert have that big of an impact or a change in your life. Well, I'm going to let you decide for yourself. But personally, as someone who is actively working on Italian citizenship, buying property, doing business in Italy, all of the above, the things that I learned from Paolo Rigo from Studio Rigo in our interview today literally begin to cause my mind to shift and change and seek sort of unexpected solutions and options to things opened up. Things that I thought I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, I began to question. And by the way, I mean that in the very best way. I'm not questioning things and feeling confused. Now that I am equipped with the right knowledge, with knowledge that I didn't even know I needed to have, now that I have knowledge on some of these topics, the decisions I make moving forward are going to be more well-informed. They are going to be decisions that are based on facts and knowledge rather than on instinct and emotion. I'm not discounting emotions and instinct. However, when it comes to taxes and business and making very strategic plans moving forward, one wrong step, one uneducated step, I should say, could lead you into years of sort of entanglement and regretting maybe the way you did something. And so, anyway, without giving too much else away and without telling you much more than what I've already told you, I want to share this interview today. Now, depending on how long the interview goes, we may have to split this episode into 2 segments. We'll see how it goes. All right, well, I'm very, very excited for you to hear today's interview with Paolo Rigo from Studio Rigo. Enjoy. Hello, Paolo. I'm so excited to have you here. This has been a long time coming.
Likewise, my pleasure being here.
Paolo, you are going to bring a certain level of knowledge and expertise that is not necessarily something people always want to think about, but something they absolutely must consider if they're going to have a well-rounded, successful experience moving to or retiring to Italy or even spending part-time in Italy. One of the things that I'm most excited about is sort of breaking down some misconceptions about taxes, breaking down some common fears that people have about taxes and numbers and a system that they just don't understand. We have a hard time, most of us, understanding our own system, where we come from. When you think about trying to move to a new country with a whole new language and a new system that's extra complicated, at least that's what we all think. That's what makes us really, really in need of your services. So anyway, I've been following you for a very long time on Instagram, YouTube. You are, in my opinion, the very best that there is, and you are an extreme professional. So welcome, and we're just so excited to have you here today.
Well, I was not prepared for such an introduction. You're putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders right now. I will try my best not to disappoint your expectations, okay?
I don't think that's possible, Paolo, but Can you start off by letting us know where you are located and a little bit about you and how you got into the business that you're in and Studio Rigo and just kind of your personal story and a little bit about your business?
Okay, well, just a quick introduction. My full name is Paolo Rigo. I'm CEO and founder of Studio Rigo, that clearly goes under my name. I'm an international tax expert. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. I'm author, and leading an international tax firm since 2007. And we work with clients from all over the world. We work with consulates, embassies, and the local court. I remember when I started in 2007, and I'm 39, by the way. I don't know if that matters. And I was just dealing with Italian clients because, the obvious reason is Italian, it's very easier to deal with. And the very first client that I got in touch with an international problem was a pilot for American Airlines. He just moved to Verona, and he had to declare his US source of income. And I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but personally, I love challenges. And when I heard from him, well, I don't know who you look for because you're the first one welcoming you. You're the first one speaking barely a little bit of English. I thought, well, maybe there's a chance for me that I try something new. I get out of the comfort zone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I had to work on this tax matter. I remember I charged it in something like 100 or 150 for a 2 weeks work. It was not a good deal for me, but never mind.
Excellent experience, right?
Yeah, I had to get better at negotiation, but never mind. I started working on this project. I found it very interesting. I developed some new skills, and here we go. 2022, I'm very proud of my team, 25 people, and a YouTube channel. What else can I ask for?
It seems like you've got the world by the tail, my friend. Oh, that's great. So you're in Verona. So you're kind of like a neighbor because we're both in Veneto. So you like you said a minute ago, we're about an hour away. So I hate to say this, but I still have not visited Verona yet. So when I do, you and I will definitely have to get together, and you'll have to show me a little bit about your city, not turn you into a tour guide, but some of the best places at least to have a bite to eat or a drink.
You'll be my guest whenever you want. Just give me a ring.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Paolo, one of the things that I love that you have as your personal mission statement is the following. You refer to yourself in this way. You are a creative numbers man with a big mission to teach people how to live their dream while balancing numbers and happiness. How profound.
I know.
And how deceptively simple. Because that sounds so simple and it's so beautifully put. And it's so important to balance numbers with happiness, and you really can't be happy unless the numbers in your life are balanced, can you?
Well, I have to thank my wife and my daughter, because I realized that success, it's really a personal choice. It could be selling more, it could be learning a new language, it could be moving to another country, it could be getting richer, it could be getting rid of an employer that is, I don't know if I can say it, but is a pain in the ass. It's very personal, and you have to find your inner balance. So the problem is that very often when you have to do the math with your life, there is something that is missing, and is taxes, is personal income, is how much is left on the table when I leave my office, because that's where everything stands for. If you don't have the money for living, if you don't have the money, to achieve your goal, how can you move forward? I love to think that as a numbers man, yes, of course, I can do the math. I can show you the best spreadsheet ever. But also, I love to think that I'm able to think in a different way, to search for the best solution for your case, helping you, not just telling you have to do this, like, an advice monster crashing your door, but telling you what the options are and leave you the choice with the freedom.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And that's where the creative numbers man title comes in, isn't it?
Here in Italy, we have probably the hardest way to find information. It's plenty of laws, regulations, updates. We are very famous for that. So how can someone get some clarity out of that? It's almost impossible. I try myself with my team, of course, because I would be nothing without them. I try myself the best to show people that ways are clean. It's the way information are delivered that is messy. But I don't know if you're aware of that. Well, for sure, you're native. They say, don't hate the player, hate the game. They made a mess. I can make the difference. I can try to explain how things work. And it's up to you to make the next move.
Fantastic. Well, a lot of people don't have a clue what the first move is, let alone what the next move is. And so that's why I feel like when I found you and started watching your YouTube videos, which are incredibly informative, started watching your Instagram videos, and just getting to know sort of your different approach, which I really, really resonated with me. I'm a creative person, and so I tend to look at numbers as like a necessary evil. I don't get a lot of joy out of them. I understand. I love it when, you're seeing money coming in, but then, yeah, you've got a great income coming in, but what are you going to do with that? Or you've got a lot of money in the bank, or you've got a good retirement, and, that's all wonderful. But if you don't manage that correctly, then you can end up with a lot of anxiety and a lot of problems down the road if things aren't managed correctly. And so anyway, that's why you're here, to help us with our fears and our unknowns and our misconceptions today. And I know that you have a fantastic team and you have experience of, what is that now, 2007 to 2022. You're the numbers guy. Is that about 15 years or so?
Don't make me feel like I'm getting old, please. But yes.
15 years of doing this work. That's pretty great. Now, who are your primary customers, especially foreign clients?
I would love to split between client, customer, and the prospect.
Okay.
Believe me or not, we're not into the, getting as much clients as possible business. We'd rather turn it into an educational firm. So we would love to teach anyone looking for information, trustworthy information. That's the goal. The process of becoming a customer or becoming a client is definitely something that we're not in control of, because it deals with, finding someone local, for example, finding someone that is a good fit for your budget, someone that is referred to someone else. So we don't care about that part. We want to educate people moving to Italy, or, for example, trying to understand what could happen in the future in 5 to 15 years if I move to Italy. The biggest question is, what if?
Mm-hmm.
We are there to tell you what if is.
Wow. Okay.
I can tell you a few numbers and then make you laugh at the end.
Okay.
Of that short explanation. I can tell you that the main market is from the US, but just because, it's the majority of people looking for this kind of opportunities. Then we have clients from South America, from Asia in general, not from Russia in this very moment. I'm still wondering the reason why. This is not a joke. From Japan, Australia, Africa, Europe too, not the Europe. And the majority of our clients, the very first time that they get in touch with us, have no idea about the timeline.
I have no idea about their personal timeline?
Yeah, they say, well, we're wondering what happens if I move to Italy, but tell me, what's going to happen in 2023? What's going to happen in 2024? Mm-hmm. It seems like they're holding the decision and they're waiting for some good news to come from my side. I don't know if it makes sense. Yes. And the majority of our clients, just females, just women. I don't know.
Hey, interesting. Lucky 65%.
You. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. That does not surprise me at all. Women are very, very level-headed, and they are very, very interested in safety, and usually. And so that makes sense that they're wanting to be cautious and make a really educated move. So that I could understand that. And we have a few extra women listening to the show than men. We have about a 45 to 55 split as far as men to women listeners. So that sort of sounds familiar. I've got 4 potential clients I want to break down with you here, Paolo, and we're going to talk just in general. But would you, before we get into examples of 4 potential clients that hopefully everybody listening will be able to identify with at least one of these clients, what would you say are some of the laws or the changes that have happened recently in Italy that most affect foreigners, whether it's Americans or people from coming to Italy from anywhere? What are some of the biggest changes, whether positive or negative changes, that have happened to like the Italian tax code?
I was very exciting hearing from you. Well, I want to know what the updates are. And then you said the pros and the cons of the law. So I was like, okay, I have to talk about the bad side of that. I can tell you that starting from 2015 onwards, there is the so-called regime impatriati or rientro dei cervelli. I apologize if I'm using Italian words, but that's the name of the law.
Now, could you repeat those really, really slow for my ear? I'm sure everybody else heard you.
Okay, no problem. 2 words, regime impatriati. Okay. And the second is rientro dei cervelli. Mm-hmm. The official name is the first one. The second is the oldest one. Basically, I don't want to spoil anything. That's the truth. Our government is desperate for money. It's pretty clear. You can find it everywhere. So they're trying their best to attract people from other countries in terms of setting up a business, working remotely, or at least staying here for a few years. And of course, there must be a balance, as I keep on saying, between what you get and what you pay for. So our government decided to give a discount, let's say, on taxes for the first 5 to 10 years. At the same time, they understood that, of course, there is the market, there's a target for this, but also there is plenty of people retiring from work that are looking for some opportunities in the South. So they say, okay, you're welcome here. Let's forget about our impressive tax brackets. I'm going to give you a flat rate, 7%. Let's move to Italy. Let's meet. Stay there 10 years and see how it goes. This is something very important that everyone listening to must, remember. All the benefits are time limited. Mm-hmm. So the biggest question is, what's going to happen next?
Right. Okay. Well, that's a very important thing to keep in mind. So you're saying Italy, which is looking for a little extra money to handle their growing expenses, and the pandemic didn't help anything, did it? They're looking for creative ways to bring in a little bit more money into their system, and they're encouraging foreigners. So they're saying, let's give you a flat rate of 7%, you said, for 10 years?
Let's play with some numbers. I hope you don't mind. It's a language that I'm more comfortable with.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the first one, the regime impatriati.
Okay.
They say, let's say you make 100,000 gross. Here in Italy, you're not required to pay taxes on the 100,000. You will pay taxes just on the 30% of that. So 30,000. If you move in southern regions, we're going to exaggerate. We're going to give you 90% off. So you will pay taxes just on the 10%. And if you buy a property or you get a kid, you get the extension up to 10 years of this benefit. This is just for the personal income. The other one is the 7% for pensioners in the South. It's pretty funny because if you Google it or if you go on Facebook, it's almost popping up groups of, I'm going to help you with the 7%. This is the official group of the 7%. Basically, if you move in the South, if you retire for work, you're going to pay just the 7% on the foreign source of income, 7% on your pension, on the gross. No wealth tax for 10 years.
Okay.
How can you beat that?
Well, I don't think you can. The next question is, what's the South?
Well, you know that devil like to hide in details, right?
Yes.
I'm trying my best to play the salesman. Like, oh, this is the offer. It's something that you cannot skip. Well, you have to sign now. I'm going to reveal all the untold story about all the benefits and everything running on internet.
Okay.
First of all, the 7%, yes, is a nice deal, but is on the gross. Mm-hmm. So on top of all the personal income taxes, paid or held in your home country, you have to add the 7%. Because a lot of people think clearly 7%, wow, it's less than 23, it's less than 43, it's the way to go. Hold on, pull the brake on. What happens if, for example, your tax liability in Italy is 23, percent, and you actually paid 21 in your home country?
I think that comes out to like 44%.
You can, I'm gonna deep dive about this later. Here in Italy, you can almost offset all the taxes already paid in your home country, because otherwise you would pay twice as much. It wouldn't be fair to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you would pay just the difference of the 2% in this case.
Okay.
How does the 2% versus the 7% stand like?
Even better.
See?
Yeah.
It's not about number itself. It's about the basis that you apply the numbers on.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And when you said the South, well, it's not just the South in general. It's not Brindisi, it's not Foggia, it's not Bari, all the fancy cities you can find on Instagram. It's just remote places with a population less than 20,000 inhabitants. Only in the South, only in Puglia, Sicily, Calabria, southern regions.
So not Campania.
Not at all.
Okay. That's good to know. So that does not include Sardinia.
It does. It does include Sardinia.
It does include Sardinia. Okay. So to be clear, the two main islands, Sardinia and Sicily.
Basilicata, Molise, all the southern regions.
Okay. All the southern regions. So everything south of Campania, basically.
Yeah,
and
almost.
Okay. Okay. So, and then it's not just the southern regions, but it's the small towns in those southern regions. So if you're living in Palermo, or if you're living in Bari, you don't get this benefits.
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. So you got to be outside in a smaller village. Makes sense.
I would like to articulate a little bit. You have to be here in Italy, and don't hate me for this, but this is our bureaucracy. There is a huge difference between the legal domicile and the fiscal domicile. You can be considered fiscally resident in place A and getting the domicile in place B. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think so.
Let's use just within the Italian territory.
Okay.
You could be fiscally resident in Verona and then spending the 183 days plus in Sicily.
Okay.
Or, I'm not saying that you have to, okay? But I bet that your audience is smart enough to read between the lines right now. Or you can set up your tax residency in a small village with less than 20,000 inhabitants, but still setting up your domicile somewhere else.
Okay, so you're talking about within Italy, your domicile and your, what was the term you used? Taxable?
The tax residency.
Tax residency. Okay, so for example, I'm currently looking for properties outside of Veneto, but that's where I'm currently living. So I probably wouldn't want to have my tax residency be there. I'd want to have it be somewhere in the South, right?
Let's say that, let's consider this Mr. Jones. Okay, Mr. Jones is retired from work. He's looking for some place in order to get the election for the 7%. Maybe he could establish his tax residency in the small village in the South and then rent some good place in Florence and spending the majority of the year. How does it sound like?
It sounds great. Can you do that legally?
I don't know. We are recording right now.
You're the creative numbers guy, so that's what you're supposed to be telling us.
Legally, I'm going to hide behind, like a good lawyer. I like to hide behind laws. Legally, it's possible.
Okay. And you're the one with the knowledge to be able to help people. So that's amazing that you brought that up, because that really, really lets us know, everyone listening to this know, that just because there are complex laws and just because there are a lot of unknowns for a foreigner moving to Italy, the good thing is with someone like you on their side, helping them and guiding them, you're taking all of the mystery out of the process, and you're going to hopefully guide and direct us to make the right choices. Because it really, if you make kind of establish yourself and start wrong, you could be paying for that mistake for a long time.
Sadly, I have to confirm that.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I think that anyone moving to Italy, as part of their starter kit, they need to call Studio Rigo and talk to Paolo and his team, because really a consultation with you first, when someone is saying, okay, we don't know where we're going to be. We don't know what we hear are our favorite areas. We're not sure if we want to own an apartment or own a farm or own a villa. What would be the tax ramifications for any one of these decisions? And if we want to have a beach house and then maybe a place in the north, like that's when your expertise would help them to formulate their plan, rather than falling in love with a piece of property they maybe see online and then they buy it. And then next thing they know, they've just found themselves in a situation where they don't have as many options as they would if they had talked to you first.
I like to think that the game, let's say not against, but with the Italian Revenue Agency, must be fair.
Mm-hmm.
They for sure know the rules because they make it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they know the rules, but if you don't know the rules, then you could really find yourself in a messy situation. I'm
going to give you something that potentially everyone listening to can find extremely valuable in the long term, in the long run. Okay. I don't know if you're aware about what a tax treaty is. Tax treaty, contract between two countries in terms of avoiding dual taxation. Why that? Because a lot of people change and move destinations, tax residency during the years. There's article, this article number 4.2, if you want to deep dive, let's say this article between Italy and the United States. By the way, it's signed in the 70s or late 80s, I don't remember. It's possible for anyone, okay, individual, to be tax resident in two places at the same time. How come? Well, Italy thinks if you spend more than 183 days, you're fiscally resident here according to our regulation. But at the same time, and tell me if I'm wrong, in the US, as long as you have the US citizenship, you have to pay taxes there.
Correct. Yep.
Also, for example, in New Zealand, if you have the property there as main domicile, you're considered tax resident there. So what happens if you're a tax resident in two places at the same time?
Don't ask me.
They say, and this is not something that you can read around, they say you have to choose. You have to make the election. You have to decide, despite what the Italian regulation is. If the center of your life, if the center of your interest is in place A, it doesn't matter how many days you spend in place B.
Oh, really? Now, how is that defined, the center of your life? What does that mean?
Many of our clients came to us because they saw our video about Shakira, the pop singer, receiving something like 15 million tax audit notice for being tax resident abroad. So it happens very often for someone with very huge income to become a tax resident in some, let's say, tax haven. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about this. You don't have to be, Elon Musk in order to benefit from that. Mm-hmm. If you can prove the Italian Revenue Agency that, for example, your main property is in New York City, your family is in New York City, your bank account is in New York City, I would say your everything, investments, employer is in New York City. What happens if you spend the majority of the time here in Italy? It's just a matter of time, not a matter of your life. So it's possible, and not just between United States and Italy, it's possible between any countries all around the world to spend more time in one place and still being a fiscally resident in that place, the country of origin. This is an amazing opportunity that no one speaks about.
No, I mean, you're the first person I've ever heard talk about it. So you just referenced Shakira, who was having that, she's the pop singer who, I guess she's from Colombia, yep. But she was having this problem with Spain, correct? Spain,
yeah, because she said, of course, I'm not her lawyer. She said that she had to pay taxes in Bahamas or some tax haven in the previous fiscal years. And then at the same time, Spain is saying, yes, you're right, but we see that your kids are getting school in Spain. Your spouse, Piqué, the football player of Barcelona, is in Barcelona. So how can you prove that the center of your life is elsewhere? And clearly she was not able to, because it's impossible. But if you behave correctly from the very beginning, if you keep behaving like, getting everything ready to prove the entire agency where the center of your life is, it's not a dream, it's a strategy. There's a huge difference.
So it really, again, goes back to figure out where you think you might want to go, and then make sure you have someone on your side that can guide you as you begin to launch towards that dream. Make sure that you're starting the journey correctly. Otherwise, you could end up with some problems. You don't want to get 5 years down the road, get a tax bill that's more than you could possibly imagine paying back. Or you're going to drain your resources in a way that you didn't anticipate.
Regardless, your dream with Italy or your plan with Italy, you have three choices. One is to move as fiscally resident. It means that you'll be required to pay taxes on the worldwide income. The second option is moving as non-tax resident. So you're going to spend less than 183 days. You can go back and forth. 3, spending 365 days as non-tax resident, because the center of your life is in your home country. There's a lot of choices. And still, getting back to the first option, let's say that you're moving everything, okay? You're starting from scratch in Italy. Still, there are some incentives for you. So before thinking, how much do I have to pay? Just start asking yourself, do I have to pay?
Okay. Well, fortunately for us, you have the answer to that question. Okay, Paolo, let's say client number 1 here, Lucy. Lucy is 65 and a half years old, and she's retired in the United States.
Okay.
She is moving with her husband and their dog to Sicily. They've found a beautiful piece of property in Sicily, and they are moving. They both had really excellent careers. They have pensions, and they've saved personally and invested. So they have personal wealth. They're thinking that they want to sell their primary residence in the United States and not have to worry about maintaining that, because they really do want to live in Italy most of the year, but they want to be able to go back to the United States to visit family and so on and so forth. What would you say if Lucy and her husband came to you? How would you start? What would be some of the questions that you would ask them, or maybe some of the things you'd want them to consider? What would be the way you would guide someone in that situation?
I do love what you just said. You're asking me what are the first questions that I would ask them. That's how it works. So I'm going to give you a virtual high five from here.
Okay.
For the approach.
Okay.
The very first question would be, what kind of, jobs we're talking about? If they're retired for work, they have been working under the private sector or under the public one?
They would be working in the private sector. Yeah.
Okay. What about their citizenship? Do they have the dual? They're getting to get the dual, or they just have the US one?
Let's say in this situation that Lucy's family was Italian and she was able to get her citizenship with just for herself. And then I'm assuming that since she became a citizen, then her husband would also have the right to become a citizen as well.
Okay. I would love to work with the worst scenario possible.
Okay. Worst scenario.
Well, yes, simply because we're talking about someone that is, let's say, healthy. Probably we're talking about someone that has a nice taxable income. So let's see what happens if they move in the South in this case.
Okay.
By the way, I asked you something about the pension, the source of the pension itself, the private or a public one, because based on Article 18 and 19 of the same tax treaty that I was talking about, remember? It's provided that if someone is retiring for work and he worked for any government division or the government itself and is receiving a public pension, that pension more likely will be considered tax-free here in Italy.
Really?
Yes, really. Article 18 and Article 19 of the tax treaty.
Okay, Article 18 and 19 of the tax treaty between the US and Italy.
That's right.
Okay, so just to be clear, because there are listeners who are nurses, doctors, police officers, teachers, or maybe someone who worked in the government to some other capacity. You're saying those would all probably fall under that same category?
100%, yes.
Very interesting.
There is just one if.
Oh.
Remember, we are in Italy. If you get a dual citizenship, let's forget about the benefit. Everything is taxable.
Oh, interesting. So if you're a resident, but not a citizen, and then the next question is, how easy is it to get residency versus citizenship? I guess residency is easier to get than citizenship, as far as I know. So, okay, that's for another topic for another day. But okay, that's good. That's a good thing to know about. Man, I've never heard of that before, but there's going to be some people listening. They're going to hear that and be very happy.
Just off records for a few seconds, I had a call with a client this very morning, and it was just about to sign this piece of paper for citizenship. And when he heard about this, he said, you know, the FK word in a very loud way. Say, are you kidding me? No one told me about this.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting because that's the situation I'm in right now, Paolo.
Oh, okay.
Not to make this all about me, but I've been so happy and so excited I'm a resident. I'm officially a resident. And, you know, I think I probably can be a resident for the rest of my life without any problems because I'm married to a native Italian. But what you're telling me is it could be, not in every situation, but it could potentially be an issue if you're not aware of some of the potential tax incentives or breaks you get for non-citizens, but residents.
I like to say something like this. Be aware that citizenship could be very expensive tax-wise.
Interesting. This is why we're talking to you today.
Just if you type for work. For all the other cases, let's forget about it. It doesn't change a thing. So worst scenario, you're a dual citizen. So it doesn't matter if you're receiving a private pension or foreign pension. And give me some number. 100,000 gross. How much we're talking about?
You're talking about how much every year they're going to have to live on?
Yep.
Money that they're going to. Okay, let's say between the two of them, it's 100. Let's just say 200,000.
Okay. Well, it's a nice deal. There is just one number that I'm missing, the tax liability in the United States. So in the percentage, how much they have to pay in the United States.
Let's just say that their tax bracket is 20%, just to have a round number.
Okay. Remember, this is not a job interview. Okay. We're just floating numbers.
Right.
To explain stuff.
But you know how numbers can make everybody nervous. They're making me nervous. Just talking about this imaginary couple.
Let's forget about yourself. Let's focus on Lucy's situation, okay?
Let's get back to Lucy.
Okay, 200,000 combined. Yeah. And the liability in the United States is 20%. Mm-hmm. So if you apply the 20% on top of the 200,000, we are talking about 40,000 going in taxes. It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if they move to Italy? Well, let's stick with the worst scenario. So all the taxable income is on the table, 200,000. If they choose any place in Italy, okay, any place, it could be Venice, it could be Rome, it could be Firenze, it could be Verona. No one picks Verona. I'm still wondering the reason why, but never mind. The tax liability, still, I'm using round numbers, okay? This is not the precise tax rate. It would be, let's say, 38%.
Mm-hmm.
So if you apply the 38% on 200,000, it looks like the tax liability is 76,000.
Mm-hmm. Added to their 20%.
Hold on.
Okay.
Who's the tax guy here?
Clearly not me.
let's move slowly. And if there is something that I move too fast about, please stop me, okay? I want to be very clear.
Slow is good. Slow is good.
So 200,000 gross. Here in Italy, you pay taxes on the gross. Remember that.
Yeah.
Tax liability, 38%. Total tax to pay, 76,000.
Okay.
Thanks to the same tax treaty, I know is a very good friend of mine, you can offset almost every personal income tax paid or held, for example, in your home country. You almost never pay twice as much. So if you already paid 20%, the total bill would be reduced to 18%. So if you make the difference, the liability would be something like 36,000. Just the difference.
Incredible. Okay. So you're not doing double taxation. That's the avoidance of double taxation. And that's something that oftentimes people, especially in places like California and New York, where you have really high property taxes, you can write those off. It's kind of the same idea, where you can write off any taxes you've paid. You can write them off against other taxes that need to be paid. Okay, so you've got that they can live anywhere they want, Lucy and her husband, and because they're paying 20% in the United States, they only have to pay 18%, which brings us down to around 36,000 a year.
36,000, yes.
Okay, now we're not done though, are we?
Not at all. We're talking just about the personal income, because here in Italy you also have to deal with the wealth tax. But let's keep it for another call or another question. You
just said wealth tax. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna make a note to ask you about wealth tax.
Let's stick with the personal income tax, 36,000. Okay. With 36,000 goes the freedom to choose any place of your choice. You can move whenever you want. Or if you like the 7% deal, you can move in the south. You must choose a municipality with less than 20,000 inhabitants. And in this case, you will pay just a 7% flat on the 200,000. So 14,000. Once again, I'm going to say it loud and clear. You will pay the 7% on your gross as an alternative tax. This way, you cannot offset all the personal income taxes paid in your home country. It's an alternative tax.
Okay, so you're not offsetting like we talked about before. This is something different. This is just a flat 7% tax
on the gross,
which may be good. Maybe is good for some people, may not be good for other people, depending on their situation, huh?
100% agree with you. And this is why a lot of people that, share a lot of information on YouTube or, Facebook say, well, the 7% is the way to go. The question is, how can you be so sure?
It's everyone's unique individual situation, isn't it?
Let's stick with the same example. Let's say that for some other reasons, your tax liability in Italy is 24%. Making the difference, you just have to pay the 4% here in Italy. It would be 8,000. So moving to any other place would cost you 8,000. Moving in the 7% flat zone would cost you 14,000.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and this could be, if we changed, let's say we changed Lucy's situation a little bit. Her and her husband didn't work for someone else. They worked for themselves, and they put all their investments into what we call in the United States a Roth IRA. I'm sure you're very familiar with those. They've already paid taxes on the money when it went in. So all the money coming out is tax-free. So they're not paying practically no taxes in the United States whatsoever. In that situation, then the 7% in the South is a better situation for them, probably, right?
You're better than me at doing the math. Yes.
I don't think so, but okay. That's just something that popped into my head. That could be another potential situation, right? Okay. So again, we just keep going back to the same thing, don't we? Planning. You plan it. You don't just find yourself in it and then try to make the best of it. You're strategic about the way you plan this.
You have the chance before moving to Italy to play with scenarios. So let's play with those. Be creative. I'm going to say it again. Be creative about your future. You have to play with a lot of things that maybe you're not in control of. So ask yourself, what happens if I start receiving withdrawing money, or I start, my own business in Italy, or what's going to happen if I start working and I get some dividends? Work on scenarios and see what's going to happen before making the choice.
Okay. All right. Let's go to situation number 2, Paolo. Let's talk about the second scenario, second imaginary client. His name is Stephen.
Okay.
Stephen is single. He is a remote worker.
Okay.
He works for a company that is somewhere else in the world. I don't know where we're going to say he's from. Maybe you can give him a country where he can be from. We could say the United States just to keep it simple, since that's where the majority of your clients are coming from, and that's where a lot of our listeners are from. But anyway, let's just say he's a remote worker. He makes his money in another country, but he's living in Italy. Let's talk about him.
You know what I'm about to ask you, right? Give me some numbers.
Okay, let's say he's making $150,000 a year.
Okay, I would like to say Stephen that is very lucky. Is in the right place at the right time. You know that rules here keep on changing, and very often they add some press release in order to update some conditions and rules about an old version of the rules. So in this case, they confirm, I'm talking about the Italian Review Agency, okay? I'm not talking about some guy telling I think so. They confirmed that you can benefit for the 70 or the 90% off, even if you're working remotely for a foreign company.
You said 70 to 90% off.
Yes.
For a remote worker.
I confirm, I'm going to split numbers, 70 and 90 off.
Wow. Okay. So he's being taxed in his home country because that's where he's making his money, and that's where he's still a tax resident, but he's living in Italy. Now, this is a new law, isn't it? Or a new whatever exemption or whatever you call it.
Well, it's like, bidding for some offer in 2016. They found out it was not that appealing. So I had to adjust it a little bit to attract more people.
Uh-huh. So is this what everyone is referring to as the digital nomad? You've heard that term?
Yeah, I heard it a lot of times, but it sounds kind of funny because it's not just for digital nomads, it's just for any kind of personal income that you make from Italy. So you could be an employee, a self-employed, a business owner, whatever.
Okay. So you're saying let's not get so hung up on these catchphrasey terms that swirl around on social media and so forth, and news organizations pick them up. Let's just look at each situation and just see what it is, what your individual situation is, like Stephen, for example.
Using a metaphor, let's say that you're outside of this nice disco club, okay? And there's the dressing code. There are 3 rules. One is being a tax resident abroad in the last couple of years. Second, committed to stay here in Italy for at least a couple of years. And third, having an Italian source of income, or let me rephrase it correctly, making money from Italy.
Making money, just to be clear, making money from Italy or making money while in Italy?
From Italy. So it could be a remote worker. It could be a self-employed in Italy. It could be hired by an Italian company. Who cares?
Okay. So that's another situation that you could find yourself in. Okay. Okay. So let's get back to Stephen. Stephen is, he is a remote worker, but he's making all of his money from, let's say, the United States.
Okay.
You're saying that, and is it going to make a difference where he lives?
A lot.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Once again, we have to split between the northern part and the southern regions of Italy. If you move from, let's say, Naples upwards, you get the 70% off. From Naples downwards, 90% off. Mm-hmm. So sticking with the 150 grand per year, your taxable income of moving to Italy would be at least 45,000. The best, 15,000. With the same benefit, the tax treaty provides that you can offset all the income taxes paid there, all the taxes paid or held by your employer. And I have a good feeling that if we take a look about your 1099, you actually paid a way lot more on the 150 than the taxes you have to pay on the 50 grand or 45. What do you think?
I would say you're probably right.
So in this case, numbers wise, moving to Italy would be neutral to you.
Okay. So you're getting the lifestyle you want, but your taxes are not being affected negatively in any way. You're basically experiencing the same exact tax situation you would be if you were still in the United States.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's play with the country of origin for a little bit, just to make it more delicious.
Okay, here we go.
All the people listen to. Let's say that you're lucky. You're not living in a country where you get taxed on the citizenship, but you get taxed on the residency.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
A lot of people plan something like this. They say, okay, dear company, you're paying 150 gross. What if we change it? And instead of considering me an employee, I will invoice you from Italy as a freelancer, as a contractor. So you will not have to, deal with the payroll. You can save some money. Let's make things more easy for you. And at the same time, what's going to happen? You will not have to apply any withholding tax. You will not have to apply any, pension contributions or social security in the country of origin. And you will pay clearly taxes and pension contributions just on the 30 or 10%. Multiply this saving for 10 years. Let's do the math. What's the result?
A lot. Could be like $1 million.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. So become an independent contractor for the company you're working for. You save them money, save yourself money. Everybody's happier.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it is a win-win. Now, let's say Steven, who figured out that he gets to be invoicing his company rather than being an employee because he's a resident of Italy, so he gets the benefit of Italy's healthcare system. So he doesn't have to worry about healthcare. He's got his healthcare covered, so he doesn't need that from his company anymore as a benefit. So maybe the company says, okay, well, if you're going to save us all this money, then we can pay you a little bit more even. You could maybe make a little bit more money. But so Steven is in Italy and he loves it so much. He stays for not just the 2 years but let's say he stays for 10 years.
Okay.
Now he's at the 10-year mark. Now what's going on?
Are you sure you want to know?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to know when the party is over.
I don't want you to cut the call.
Let's hear what happens.
Okay, I will make you jump off your seat. Without the 50 grand, we have to talk with the Italian rates. Italian rates, just on the average, are on the progressive rates. So the more you make, the more you pay. We are talking about 23 to 43%.
Okay.
On the 100% that you're making.
On 100%. So you're taxed on 100% of your income between 23 and 43%.
On the progressive basis. So if you're making more than, let's say, 65,000, the remaining part is under the 43%. Let's apply an average 40%. The tax liability will be between 60 to 70,000. How does it look like now?
It doesn't look so great. So I guess the question would be, what could someone in Steven's situation do? Is there anything, or is there just a hard wall that you're going to slam into on your 10th year? Like, is there just no way around it? That's going to happen. That's when your benefits have run out and Italy's like, it's time to start paying.
Well, I hope that I will not offend any ladies, girls listening to you right now. But let's say that Italy is a nice girl, not just for long-term commitment.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
I understand. So she's in it for a good time. Italy's in it for a good time, but not for the long run.
I don't see any way to ring on the go.
Okay.
But I have an idea.
Okay.
Let's say that, in this case, Steven is a wise guy. He did due diligence and he knows what the tax really stands for. he knows that he can spend even 365 days in Florence, for example. And if he can prove that the center of your life now is in the US, he doesn't have to pay a thing to the Italian authorities. So after 10 years, I think that with 1 million, you can find a nice property in the US, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying it would be legal then, like on your 9th year, you know that the party's almost over. Then you start to shift everything or shift enough of your life back to the United States, your bank accounts, everything there, close to maybe where your family lives or where you have personal connections, and you can prove that you are not, what was the term? You can prove that you're a tax resident
elsewhere,
not a tax resident of Italy, but you're a tax resident of the United States. Then you could continue with what you're doing, basically.
I will say something that probably will blow your mind in a few seconds. According to Article 2 of TWIR is our tax code, okay, in short. They say, and they regulate how someone can be considered a tax resident. They're very clear and they're very, upfront about the words that they're picking. They say someone is considered when he spends more than 103 days in Italy on the calendar year basis, or is registered to the municipality for more than 103 days. So it's a matter of more or less than 103 days. I would like to rewind a little bit. I said is considered. Why do they say that? Because it's up to you to prove that your situation is different. It's up to you to prove that your case is different. Why do you say that? Because it's provided by the tax treaty. They cannot go louder than that. They have to follow the tax treaty. So it's possible for you, but it's just up to you and the cards that you can play.
Okay, so the responsibility is on you to prove it.
Always.
Got it. Okay, good to know. Well, now you see what I mean about Paolo Rigo. I am so incredibly grateful to Paolo for taking the time to be with us today and share his knowledge, his incredible, vast knowledge on the topic of setting up business and taxes and just sort of organizing your financial house. It's something that anyone who plans to move or retire or even spend part of their year in Italy, it's something that you need to know about, and it's better to know about it before you get too involved, and so you can start sort of being strategic in your planning. And I'll be honest, this is a topic that in the past I sort of saw as a necessary evil. And for the first time in my life, thanks to Paolo, I feel so much different about this. I feel empowered by the information rather than oppressed by it. For me, as a designer and a writer and someone who loves to work with plants and, in the horticulture industry, I'm just so much more comfortable outside and working with things of beauty. And I don't always see tax codes and numbers and ledgers as things that are very interesting. But I have to say, when you know the right way to go and when you have someone that you can trust guiding you, it sort of just changes everything and you don't have to feel anxiety. Now, I of course, like anyone that I interview, I have no deal with Paolo. He graciously chose to come and be our guest. I am not getting any sort of finder's fee for any clients that happen to find him through listening to this podcast. Now, I met Paolo last year, and after talking to him personally about my personal situation, I asked him if he would in the future be willing to be on the podcast. I was delighted when he agreed that he would do that. We finally found a time that was convenient for his very busy schedule to share his knowledge with us. And so, like everything that I share with you on this podcast, or anytime I bring someone on as an expert, I'm bringing them on because I have personally found value in what they have to share. And that's exactly what's happened with Paolo. So anyway, I just want you to know that I personally will be working with him for my business plans and any sort of plans that I have, just to make sure that I don't take a wrong step and find myself in a situation with taxes that could be potentially very unpleasant, especially when you're dealing with taxes between two different countries. You don't really want to mess that up. You can find all of the links to Paolo's social media, website, everything, so that you can follow him and reach out to him should you need to.